Welcome to How to Trust Your Intuition, the podcast, the place where we learn that trust is earned and not given, even with ourselves. I'm your host, Betsy LaFay. I'm a social worker, turned award-winning psychic medium, turned intuition teacher. And my school, Trust Yourself Intuition School, celebrated its 10th anniversary in 2023. Join us each episode as we interview thought leaders and luminaries in every genre. They talk about how and when they learn to trust their intuition. Most say they're still learning. What happens when they do trust it and what happens when they don't. Stick around as we all walk together down the road towards trusting our intuition. Welcome back to another episode of How to Trust Your Intuition, the podcast. Today on the show, we have Kelsey Abbott. She is a human design expert. Some of you may know what human design is. Some of you may not. It's something that has been growing in popularity. I did not know very much about it. So if you're coming in green, that's okay. There's a lot of information about what it is and what it means and how I can help you in this episode. Just before we get started, it's not the same as astrology whatsoever. However, the similarity is that you have a chart that has different aspects that tell you about your personality, your past, your future, what your gifts are, and so on. There were some really surprising things that happened in today's episode, including the fact that I had completely forgotten that Kelsey had been the only person to ever read my human design chart about 4 years ago. So that was really exciting for us to reunite. She shares amazing stories about knowing ahead of time when people were going to die and why that freaked her out. It probably would freak out many of you as well. Of course, how she learned to trust her intuition. What happens if she doesn't? What happens if she does? In the middle of our interview, I remembered that I actually had my chart on my laptop. I brought it up, shared my screen, and she read it for me. There was something that happened at the very end of her reading my chart that blew not only my mind, but also my therapist's mind. There was a question that I had been mulling over about who I am and how I show up in the world that really got me. Something that my therapist was dumbfounded by as well. So when at the end of reading my chart, she shared with me what my greatest gift was, according to my human design chart. It blew my mind. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode, including why being a generator in human design does not mean you just sit on your butt and wait. That's a misnomer that had gotten me confused for years. Kelsey explains it beautifully. Stick around to the end to find out how you can get your free human design chart from Kelsey. Enjoy. Well, without further ado, it's an honor to bring Kelsey to the show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited for this. We've already had so much fun. I've learned so much in the last 15 minutes.
Right. Talking all about crystals. And I will fully admit, I completely blanked that you had read my human design chart before this, which is, years ago. But to me, that actually brings me a lot more comfort because I have little experience with it. But then to be back with the person who read my chart, that's we have rapport. It's amazing. I had a great experience with you then, and you've only been honing your skill more since then.
Mm-hmm.
I have not had a human design person on the show before. So could you explain briefly, or however you want to explain, about human design?
Yeah. So the way I explain it is years and years ago, your baby soul got called to Earth, got so excited because Earth school is the big time. And it chose all of the gifts that you would need, all the tools you would need to be who you're supposed to be and do what you're supposed to do while you're here. And then it chose the exact time, date, place you'd be born to seal the deal on that soul blueprint. Then you come into Earth day one, you know it all. And day two, you start forgetting. And then on top of that great forgetting, then these very loving humans start telling you how to do life because they want you to be safe. And that as the conditioning that adds to the forgetting. And then one day you discover human design, see your soul blueprint, understand it, and remember who you are and give yourself permission to be the person you're meant to be and flow through life with ease.
Yeah, that's great. So that brings up a question. So this is an assumption, and you know about assumptions, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just preface that. I'm assuming there was a time when you didn't know about human design. You discovered human design. You knew about your blueprint and it changed your life. So can you tell me about the before and how it changed, like how it made your life easier, what you learned?
Yeah, absolutely. So I finished coaching school in like I started out as a marine biologist, by the way.
Yay.
Then I finished coaching school in like 2013, started my podcast, the Find Your Awesome podcast, in 2017. And I believe it was 2018 that a guest on my show said in this kind of like offhanded comment, well, have you heard of human design? And I was like anatomy? Like it did not understand the words together. And she was like, no, you need to know your birth time. And that's literally all she told me. And I'm like, okay. So we end the interview and I'm Googling. And finally I find a place to like put in your birth information. And I'm like, okay, got this. Put all my information in and a human design chart pops up. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Because it looks really weird when you first encounter it.
It's like a profile of a human head wearing a tent, and then there's these various shapes that are colored in, and then there's these bars on the side. Like really,
that's a good description.
Baffling.
Yes.
So eventually, then I learned. Oh, I think I would do like a little bit of Googling every day. And it didn't get anywhere for a while. And maybe a week into it, I found manifesting generators are warrior Buddhas. And I was like, oh, that like reverberated deep in my soul. So I'm like, oh, okay. That was the breadcrumb I needed to keep going and keep going. Little pieces like that kept happening until it's like I tumbled all the way down the rabbit hole and was like, oh my goodness. So the first thing that really truly blew my mind, the description of manifesting generator is me through and through. We're here to play. We are multi-passionate. We have lots of energy, all the things. We bounce. We do not go in a straight line. But the thing that really truly blew my mind is I was working with a business coach at the time, and she kept saying, Kelsey, you got to be more specific. And I would struggle and like contort myself into this person who could be specific. But I was lying, by the way. I was just making things up to try and do it right. And every time I got specific, it was like my energy just screeched to a halt. And I kind of felt like I got smacked around a bit. And so one of the first things I learned in human design is that I'm not here to be specific, and that being specific is actually going to make what happened to me happen.
Yeah.
That was the validation of, oh, I knew it.
Yeah. Wow. That must have changed everything.
It did. Again, it gave me permission to do life the way I intuitively knew I was supposed to do it. But it was against everything everyone was telling me. And what did I know about business? Like I went into coaching school. Like I said, I was a marine biologist, personal trainer, a swim coach. I taught spin classes and stuff like that. I had no intention of ever owning a business, running a business, had no idea what I was doing. I kind of like fell out of coaching school and was like, oh, I guess I need to start a business now. What am I doing? So I'm like looking at these people. Okay, this is how it's done.
Right.
Okie dokie. This doesn't feel right though.
Right. I just want to say, I love your energy, and I would want to take a swim class with you, a spin class with you. Like I would want to be out in a boat and you teaching me about one cell organisms or, orcas. Like I would be like, yes, let's go. Let's bounce from here to here. And then you can do my chart.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's cool. That's really
That's
cool.
how I used to in college. I taught swim lessons. We had a special thing for the kids of the faculty and staff. And I remember when my freshman year, they gave me the problem kid, they called him,
right.
Jack. Turns out Jack had ADHD, and Jack and I had so much fun together. And Jack was like a champion swimmer by the end of that session. They're like, how'd you do it? I'm like, you just follow the energy. Goodness gracious.
Yep. I mean, I didn't think we were going to talk about this, but it's a big part of your work, and it's my true north. And you've got for those of you just listening, on her back wall is a big sign that says joy. I believe joy is the highest vibration. And it feels like without being a platitude, you're saying follow your joy. That's what you do. That's what you teach people to do. How does joy, what does joy mean to you in your life and your business?
So I believe that joy is our natural state. Same as you. It's the highest vibration. It is when we're not shooting on ourselves, trying to contort ourselves into who we think we should be.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we are and who we are naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And if we allow ourselves to be the joy and follow the joy, that's where the magic happens. And I know that's challenging. Like
Yes.
life, there are things that happen in life that aren't particularly joyful. So it takes a whole lot of mental gymnastics
Mm-hmm.
to work your way through that and
Yeah.
keep following the joy. Keep that as I love that you call it your true north. Yeah.
It is. It's amazing. That's cool. Well, what do you say we get into the questions, huh?
Yes.
So, the questions, when or how did you learn how to trust your intuition? And as I say, a lot of people say they're still learning. And then we have, could you share a time when maybe you didn't trust it and the result, and possibly a time when you did trust it, possibly despite logic, and what happened? I don't always give them all three up front, but sometimes the stories weave in and out, and you get to figure out how you want to answer those. So,
yeah. So let me start this with, let me just start back in college.
okay.
So in college, my grandmother passed away and I knew it. I just knew. But no one told me until 3 days later.
Wow.
Because I was in exams and my parents didn't want to distract me.
That's tough all around.
They did it out of love. I was like, oh, well, I don't want to know when people die. That was, so I shut it down.
You are speaking to the people listening right now. Yes.
So I was like, this is not cool. This is terrifying. No, thank you. I don't need this. And then as I said, studied orcas, did all the things as a marine biologist, finally found my way to coaching school, finished coaching school. And that's when I started hanging out with a lot of people who are intuitives, Reiki practitioners, tarot readers, all that stuff. And I would get readings with all these people and I'd always leave being like, I knew that.
Yeah.
And they'd say, Kelsey, that's because you can do this. Yeah. And I was like, And every time someone new would say that to me, I think my belief would grow a little, like maybe I can. Mm-hmm. And when my most intuitive friend told me, you're the most intuitive person I know, I was really starting to be like, oh, wow, there's something to this. Mm-hmm. Then I discovered human design. Mm-hmm. And I learned that, so we all have tons of gifts sprinkled throughout our chart. And we have one biggest gift called our sun personality gift. And this is said to be 70% of who we are. Mm-hmm. Mine is the gift of the psychic, the gift of the intuitive. Wow. And when I learned that, I think I cackled. Like I was just like, oh, universe, you're so sassy.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know which of the questions that answers, but yeah.
I have a question though, and this is it may sound elementary or like something like that, but I want to break it down with you a little bit because as someone who's experienced it. So I understand intellectually and emotionally why knowing ahead of time that someone's going to die or knowing that someone died without being told is freaky and scary. But if you were to go back into that time when you shut it down, like, because I know that people have this, like this is, and they're not going in deeper to it. What would your, subconscious or fear say behind like, this is too scary, this is freaky, I'm like pushing this out?
Okay, this is a brilliant question.
You're all ready for your vacation. It's really hectic getting here, but you're seated in your airplane seat, looking out the window, and you hear the pilot come on the intercom. Good day, everyone. It's a beautiful day outside, 71 and sunny. As you're aware, to get to where we're going, we need to fly over that mountain range, and sometimes there can be a little bit of turbulence. I'm about 80% sure we'll get there safely. So buckle up, relax, and enjoy your flight. I know that sounds like an absurd situation, but when I put this in context of trusting yourself and trusting your intuition, and I ask people on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, how much do you trust yourself? 8 is a very high score when asking people. So if you fall on a 2 to 4 range, you're totally not alone. Now picture this other scenario. You're out to lunch with a friend, and the friend says that they've been having a really difficult time learning French. You ask the logical question, are you taking a class? And their answer is, well, I'm taking Spanish. Guess what? If you want to trust yourself deeply, if you want to have an easier time making decisions, break through blocks, connect with people, know who to connect with, when, there's a class for that. I've actually helped thousands of people truly trust themselves in uncertainty, in times of doubt or fear, shame or guilt. And I have a free masterclass called Intuition 101, How to Trust Yourself in Uncertain Times, that will tell you everything you need to know in order to learn to trust yourself. The link is in the show notes. However, you can also go to howtotrustyourintuition.com, all spelled out.
Okay, so there are a bunch of levels.
Yeah.
I think there's like, I want to be normal. Normal people don't know this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which is hilarious that those words just came out of my mouth, because by the time I was like 19, I was very well aware that I was not normal.
Yeah.
Maybe I was like trying to cling to one last
Well, yeah,
piece.
like when you're so far out, you're like, do I really have to go further out, and the belonging and all of that? Yeah.
Yeah. And then death terrified me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it really was that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of feel like there's a question there that you didn't ask, but like, did I successfully shut it down? And I didn't.
Yeah. Right.
There was one death that surprised me, but other than that,
Yeah.
I've known every time, including, I think it was like 2 years ago, my parents told me that a family friend died. And this is someone I hadn't talked to or been in contact with for like a very long time. And I'm like, oh, that's why they were in my dream last week.
Right.
That very random, like, why did I just dream about the Dyer family? It was very involved. I don't even know all of the siblings.
I'm sorry, but that name, that's a little much.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah.
I just like I don't feel responsible to soothe everyone who's listening. However, as an educational podcast, this comes up in Trust Yourself Intuition School, right? I mean, it's nearly a primal fear that nearly everybody has, not everybody, but nearly. You don't have to be a psychopath to not be afraid of it either. But they're outside of living in extraordinarily unhealthy or dangerous environments. So even if it's like mildly toxic, that's not what we're talking about. If you're living in dire circumstances, that intuition is going to come through no matter what, like you better get out of here. Otherwise something bad's going to happen. We will all have that. So putting that up there, it's, if you were to get intuitively in a dream or a flash or a knowing that either someone died or someone will die, yes, I understand, as I said, it can be scary, but the universe is not opening up that channel, and you don't have that channel open because it's bad or something bad will happen. So let's see how this goes. It was exams, and you knew for 3 days, and I'm sure you weren't, really focusing on it, and you're trying to probably push it away because you were in exam time. Other than the freakiness, right, and finding out later, did anything bad happen to you in those 3 days?
No, it was actually just distracting to me,
right,
because I was like, why hasn't anyone told me?
Right. I've found a lot of us who are have a tendency to be more intuitive, naturally, and pushing it away. Um, we, without knowing it, obviously we pick up on other people's energy, and that's a whole nother topic, but it kind of is like the cousin. We might mourn something, whether it be a person or a relationship or a job, before there's even any logical indication that it's over. And then, sort of, basically, because we don't know any better, not on purpose, we wind up gaslighting ourselves, being like, what's wrong with me? Everything is fine. Why am I feeling depressed? There must be something wrong. And for me, I know this happens all the time. But the plus side of it is, let's say that it's a state of like going from being single to being in a healthy relationship, right? I will be nostalgic for being single, even though I am single, and be like, oh, I'm so gonna miss this. This is amazing. Like, I really, really, or I'll miss this house that I love so much. And it's then that you're moving to a higher state, a better, more joyous, you're graduating situation. And so I just want to open it up so that, because I know people listening are like, that's why I don't want to do intuitive stuff. I do not want to know if someone's going to get fired or die. I don't want to know. And it's like, that doesn't happen all the time. And if ever it does, I have yet to hear an example of it being anything more than distracting. And again, you're in finals as well. So like, death and grieving takes up energy and time, So thank you for sharing that.
That was a great, I don't know, educational moment.
Well, I don't think I'm better than anyone. I think we're all equal. I just have such a different background. I'm on the autism spectrum, so my logic is very different. And then I've just been confronted with my own death throughout my entire life. So I just have a completely different relationship, and then talking to dead people for a living for a long time. So I don't have that fear of death. I don't particularly like pain and suffering. And I think that that's biologically wired into us, but it's good for me to hear, from other people so I can help them. How about a time when you didn't trust your intuition and what happened?
So first of all, I have to share that you gave me these questions, 2 weeks ago? And I was like, how am I going to answer this? And then you did say, like, you might just have the answer in the moment. And it's funny because I know myself. I know the answer is going to come through in the moment. And until today, I was like, when did I not trust myself? When did I not trust myself? And I was just bumping my head against the wall trying to figure it out, which is also hilarious because that's completely
It's fun. It's a good part of the story.
Yeah. So what came through is with podcast guests.
Oh, I got to hear about this. This is fun.
Saying yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere in the saying yes, so that's probably going against my intuition. I'm not as clear as that being against my intuition as the process continues, like the interview is getting closer.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes a no. And I'm like, I'm committed. Like, how do I get out of this? And then going through with it and just being a screaming no. And those interviews have never been aired.
Right.
Yeah. It's with relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Like I committed to this. How do I backtrack? How do I see like a cartoon person, like their shoes squeaking as they try and walk backwards super fast? Exactly. Well done.
Thanks. I should do soundtrack,
like voiceover. Yes,
exactly. All right. The reason why I got so excited is because podcasting is a major part of my business, but I had to take a break for about 2 or 3 years for my own healing. And you were literally the first person I reached out to. It's amazing. It's really cool. So like I'm just starting up, I call it the steam engine. Just starting up the steam engine, and I contacted 6 people, and I was shocked because in 45 minutes time, 4 out of the 6 already booked. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa, I did not expect that, because I'm just figuring maybe half of them will respond, maybe not. So anyways, there was, I'm very proud of this. Okay. And it's exactly what you were talking about. Let me give a little bit of a background that for 15 years, giving psychic medium readings, anyone from anywhere over the world can just book a reading with me. There's no contacting me and me feeling them out. And for my job, I see the person's name. That's all I have. I actually don't even need their name. I just need their ping, their energy. I see their name and I drop into my intuition and I say, is it a yes or a no? And really, it's are they going to be able to digest the heavy and intense stuff that is waiting for them, or are they just wanting to know, surfacey stuff? So over the years, that was my primary job, because it's a lot of money for a reading, right? It's not like a podcast that won't air. It's like a Yelp review and
Right.
refunds and all of that. And I want to give people what they want. So I developed, it took a long time. I mean, it's been 15 years now, but after 10 years, I just developed this boilerplate email. And it's one of those things that includes all of the things, like when you get like a podcast confirmation and like, don't be eating steak and chicken and turkey on the interview. And you're like, that must have happened, because there's
Yes.
no
Yeah.
reason why that would be in there. So, it's like, I value you connecting with me, and you don't need to take it personally. I'm not seeing something negative in your energy. It's this thing that like gently lets them down. Side note to the side note, 12 years later, after sending one of these emails, I was giving a workshop in, it was like Soho House, but it was called something else in LA. I forget the name of it, to all these entrepreneur women. And at the end, one of them came up to me and she said, you denied me a reading. And I was like, what? And she's like, I think I still have the email. And it was an email that I sent her 10 years before, which was this boilerplate. And I was like, I know that boilerplate. And she said, I was kind of pissed at the time, but I can see now that I wasn't ready. And she thanked me for it. And I was like, well, yeah, I actually would have just told you what I just told you in this training just now. So, anyways, so with all of that, I kind of like have just built up this, like, I can backtrack gracefully. So one of the people who booked the podcast, it was actually, there was these 2 people doing a podcast, and one of them I knew through our connection through UA. And this is where I messed up my intuition a little bit. I wanted to interview her, but it was him and her giving the podcast, and the contact form was through the him and her contact form. So to not leave anyone out, as in that wasn't what my intuition was saying, even though the podcast is the him and her podcast, it's not, they're their names, but I wrote, hey, her and him, I would love to interview one or both of you, which was a lie, but I didn't want to leave anyone out. So I got an autoresponder from his email, which is fine. But the thing is that everyone up until this point, including you, had written back to a thing saying thank you, at least. Like, you could just literally say thanks, booked,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then there's another little fill in the blank form on my sign up thing, and he left it blank. And I was like, I don't feel right about this. And the next thing was, he booked the slot with not saying anything to me. And that night, I was just like, I can't say officially it's because of the things he didn't do. Like, it's intuition. There's no logic behind it. But I can definitely say these things rubbed me the wrong way. I really don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. And so I was like, I'm going to write a boilerplate for this podcast thing. And the very next day, just give it a little bit more thought. And I wrote the email, which was like, thank you so much. Like, I value your time. Like, thank you for booking this slot. Things have changed over here. And we're not going to be able to hold that time. And if something else were to change and we want to have you back on, we'll reach out to you. And within 5 minutes, I got a response from the iPhone. Oh no, what happened? Is everything okay? And I'm like, well, you just really confirmed. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you don't know me. I give no indication of any drama. So I share that because I'm proud, but also like, take that boilerplate if you need to. I mean, you might have already mastered this or whatever, but like, yeah, and then you're just like cringing in the thing, and you're just like, I'm wasting this person's time and my time. But I will say, and this is what we find out on the show every time when someone talks about not following their intuition. And that's what I always say. I have this free exercise, stop, drop, and roll. So you tune in, and then you're supposed to roll with what your intuition says. But if you tune in and you're like, I'm not going to follow my intuition, then you have the pain, then you have the suffering, then you miss a missed opportunity. And then the next time, because that's going to happen to me again, somebody will book and I'll be like, I didn't mean it, And then I'll like, if you don't follow it and you're like, okay, that was like nails on a chalkboard, I'm going to take the other path. So it's always a learning opportunity if you don't follow it, but you always, in order to learn, you have to tune in first.
Yes.
So
in fact, that reminds me, have you heard of the Gene Keys?
A little bit, but not much.
Oh, they're a very close cousin of human design. They look at all the gifts. And that gift I was saying, like, that's my son personality gate. In the Gene Keys, they describe it as, you're here to listen to your intuition. Your intuition is always going to pull you away from the norm, away from the status quo. But whether you listen to it or you don't, you're always going to learn a ton. Like, that is part of your path.
When I graduated with a BA in psychology in 2002, attachment work was only applied to children. Now, in 2023, it seems to be all the rage for a reason. Because knowing your attachment type, there are three main types: avoidant, anxious, and secure, really changes your life. And if you listen to the podcast where I talked about how I lost $100,000 from a spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual coach, the silver lining to that experience was me discovering the root of a lot of my issues. I was anxiously attached. I had anxious attachment. At the very end of that terrible, terrible situation, yes, it was traumatic, I came across Maya Diamond's work. And it was working through her program that literally rewired my brain from anxious to secure. This is how I made it through all of my major transitions over the past 2 years and discovered so much about myself. Now, if you don't know about attachment work, don't feel bad. Here's a typical situation, in fact, the most common situation that happens with these attachment styles. Person A and person B are in a relationship. They care about one another. Person A reaches out to person B, doesn't hear back right away. So then maybe sends another text or another gesture, which further pushes person B away. Both people get resentful, and eventually they might break up. I was in that situation more often than I'd like to remember. I married the wrong person, I had toxic family relationships, and had no idea until I took Maya's program. So, the link for a free consultation is in the show notes, and I'm so happy to offer it all the podcast listeners. If you sign up for her program, you will get a free session worth $500 with Maya Diamond herself, one-on-one. That's just for How to Trust Your Intuition podcast listeners.
That's what we have to remember. It's not like we're getting it wrong when we don't listen. We're not like failing the test. It's, yeah, okay. I see how that could have been different.
And you just brought up such an important point, is that that whole like I'm turning it off thing. Because it's not, I can't say for certain that everyone who trusts and follows their intuition is, on the island of misfit toys like I am. Maybe you are. You can self-confess, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone is, but in our culture, it's not this way inherently, but it's because of our culture. Intuition is counter logical. So just like you said, it's going to ask you to break the norm, which in most people's cases is the hard thing. Some rebels, it's like the easy thing, but it doesn't mean that you're just on easy street. And so I can also understand why somebody would push that away, because they're just like, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to do this. But, anyone listening can tell you what will happen if you just stay with the status quo and don't speak up for yourself. So we don't necessarily need to go there. What about, I love the last guest I had, hasn't aired yet, but gave a really small example, because she's in the flow, she's an intuitive like you are, of when she trusted her intuition and when it works well. So there's no, like, you don't have to have a magnificent, like, I quit school and everyone told me not to, I didn't become a marine biologist, whatever, but like any kind of thing that comes to mind where most likely it was, there was logic that was against what your intuition said and the result.
Yeah. So I think what I'm going to share with you is, all right, and there's so many different flavors of intuition, right? Like there's the knowing, there's the hearing, there's the emotional intuition, there's the feeling energy, as you said, is like a cousin. All right. So my emotional intuition, this example blew me away. So that's why I'm sharing it.
I think I know what you mean, but there are many flavors of emotional intuition. Can you define it a little more?
Yeah. So in human design, it's described as emotional authority. And basically, if something makes you feel giddy, excited, lit up, joyful, content, satisfied, it's a yes. If something feels icky, that what you were like, I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. If it doesn't feel good, makes you feel angry, then it's a no. And so I'm a triathlete, and I had a triathlon coach, the same coach. I've had a few different coaches, but I was working with this coach for like 4 years. Loved him. Good friend of mine. And one night I woke up middle of the night, super angry, like rage. Like, okay, this is before I really understood my emotional intuition. So I'm just like, what is going on? Why am I so angry? I've since learned I can be like, oh, anger. Huh. Thanks. Can I go back to sleep now? And I fell back to sleep like instantly. And then in the morning, I'm like, what was that about? So the next day I'm like, what was that about? And it took a while, like meditating didn't give me the answer. I think working out didn't give me the answer. Finally talking to my husband, and I'm like, oh, it's time to end my relationship with that coach and to start working with a different coach. But I had no inkling. There was no, of course I could find the logic to communicate with somebody who wasn't going to just be like necessarily okay. Well, so I woke up really angry last night, and now I know it's time for us to end this coaching relationship.
So I don't know, like I have all these conjectures. I'm like, were you angry because you didn't want to end it? Or were you angry because something wrong happened or something wrong would happen? Like, what was the anger?
That's what's so cool about emotional intuition. It's not connected to anything.
Okay. Yeah.
So in human design, there's a difference between feelings and emotion. A feeling has you're angry about something. An emotion is out of the blue. It's just kind of don't go this way.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was I don't know what I'm angry at.
So this may be wrong. Like I'm literally sort of like trying to understand the feelings and emotions. So with this anger that you experience, would you say that the anger is basically a stop sign then? That's what that is. And okay, that's cool, because a lot of times people want the signs to be glaring, and it's like, no, you don't really want to be waking up in the middle of the night angry all the time. Like you know what I mean? Like it's cool sometimes, right? And for me, sometimes It is. It's like the out of the blue because I have all the clears,
Mhm.
I'll get a stomach ache and it's not associated with emotion. What happened, what's happening, what will happen. And it's not associated with what I ate or whatever. But it is that. It is it's literally a signpost of like, one time I was in this really low vibe store and like occasionally they have one thing that I need. And I found myself like at the sock aisle and there's like no socks that I would ever want there. But I'm like, maybe there are some socks that I want. And my stomach was like, no. It was basically the equivalent of your anger. It was like,
Yeah.
get the F out of here now. And it wasn't like the sky was going to collapse or anything. It was like, right, like this is not where I'm meant to be. I like that. That makes a whole bunch of sense.
Yeah.
That's
And I
cool.
love that example. So it can be anger, it can be sadness, it can be ickiness, it can be a stomach ache, it could be a headache.
Mm-hmm.
Your intuition is and it's not gonna be the same every single time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I also get like the knowing and the hearing and the smelling. That's a whole nother trip.
Yeah, it is. There's a culture that has defined 129 of these senses.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, wouldn't
Is
you
there
want
a
to just
list
like
somewhere?
probably. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I feel bad for not knowing, but I will possibly be able to find it and add it to this, but and send you a thing. Can you just review with me the feelings and emotions things? Because I don't I have them, I don't have them connected in
Yeah.
my brain.
Yeah. So there's another piece to it
Hmm.
that half of the population has emotions and the other half doesn't.
Whoa.
Yeah, the other half feels and amplifies. So like I have my own emotions. If you don't have emotions, then you feel and amplify my emotions.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So feelings come from your head
Mm.
because they're associated with a thought.
Right.
Like I don't like this thing. I feel angry.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Emotion, I feel angry. There's nothing that comes before or after. And
Okay.
because we're humans, we go up into our heads and be like,
Mhm.
what's wrong? And we
Right.
can always find something. Oh,
Right.
yeah, I really didn't like that sandwich today.
Right.
I must still be angry about that. No,
This is
like
cool because this is
you
what
got
I
it.
teach. You just didn't have
Yeah.
these.
Oh, I
Okay,
love
so
it.
the feeling comes with a thought or after a thought, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and
Exactly.
emotions are the visceral. Okay, and what you're saying is, so half of the population has
Has their own emotions.
their own emotions, and everyone has feelings.
Everybody has feelings.
Is it in your chart? If you had,
Yeah.
okay, because I'm like,
Yeah. So for people who are familiar with a human design chart,
right.
if you have a defined solar plexus,
Mm-hmm.
then you have your own emotions.
Mhm.
If you have an undefined solar plexus, then you don't have your own emotions.
Okay. And with the gift of being intuitive as you are, are they associated or you can have it defined or not defined with that?
With what?
So if you have the gift of
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So that is in another center. That's in the spleen center.
Okay.
And you can have a defined or undefined spleen and have
Okay,
that
yeah.
gift.
Wow. Whew. I'm gonna look at my chart, see
Mhm.
and see what it is. Wait a minute. I might actually have it on my desktop.
Oh, yes, please.
Right. There very well may be this. So let me see. Guess what I have and I can share.
Fabulous.
I was not even prepared. And then I can share my screen. Ooh, this is so cool. One of the main things I want to know is
Oh, yeah, you have your own emotions.
okay. No.
So fun things. You also have the psychic ache. We knew that.
Right.
But that stomach ache is coming from what I love just talking to people, and in the back of my head I'm like, I think she has an open throat, I think she has an open spleen, and it's just like churning, and I got those two right. Yeah. So you have emotional authorities, so your emotions are also going to guide you.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a lot of different emotional waves. Actually, you've got 3 different emotional waves, so those are constantly operating through you.
Mm-hmm.
And you always want to take 24 hours to make a decision.
Right.
It's so true. And I didn't. When I responded to your podcast request, I was like, no, this is a yes. I know this is a yes. I want to do it right now.
Yeah. Yep.
So, you're also super artistic.
Great.
Do you create a
Yeah,
lot?
well, I'm getting back into music. I was a musician. I like toured Europe, and yes, I right now I consider the crystals to be the sort of creation, but I'm getting back into it. Yes. I
Yeah.
love collage.
So the stomach ache, that is your undefined spleen. That's where you're gonna feel it. Actually, it could also be somebody else's stomach ache. So you can
Yes.
feel other people's bodies.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's how I do my readings. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to check in with yourself. Like, be like, no,
Is
I
it
don't
mine or
actually
is it
have.
someone else's? That's my
Yes.
full-time job. That and being grounded. So
Well, you also have an open G center. So like you might be a different person talking to me than you are talking to another podcast guest,
yeah, yeah.
which is going to be so fun to listen to your show. You have another intuitive gift that I have as well, which is the gift of having totally unique insights and opinions. And that's just like, we see the world differently.
Yeah.
This one, ideally, we're invited to share it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than just like, hey, yo, this
So
is how I see things.
I cannot do it otherwise, just because I mean that's why I do the podcast. It's why I teach, because I need that outlet. And it doesn't work if I just tell the people when they don't want to know.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
No.
In fact, if you had that full channel, it would be called the Genius Freak channel. And it's because when people invite you, they think you're a genius. When they don't invite you, they think you're a freak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we have
I think that means that I was not invited into my family. I was kicked out of my family, but I don't think I was actually invited. I mean, that's a half joke, but maybe I wasn't. Maybe I just popped right in and was like, I'm coming in no matter what.
Yeah, here I am.
What about the throat? You said something about the open throat.
Yes, you have an open throat. People with open throats are here to be an advocate for others.
Great.
And there's just something in the way that you speak that's very much like you're speaking for others.
Yes.
Rather than talking about yourself. Talking about your own experiences. Yeah. I love this word, so I have to share that you're a fabulist.
Oh.
It means you're someone who tells fables. Like you tell stories that are designed to evoke emotions. Like you're telling a story, but it's like a story.
Yeah. I wonder, so that actually makes sense, because like I can tell made up fables from my own point of view, right? That aren't ones that have been told before, metaphors. But my life is a movie all the time. Like it is epic. Like I tell people a tiny thin slice of it and they're just like, that should be, a movie. And I'm like, I know, but I'm like, I know other people's lives are like this, but like there isn't a part of my life that isn't like this. So it probably has to do with all of that, I guess. I mean, I do believe like I walk through fire so that I can lead other people through it,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
that's actually, you don't have either of the three gifts that I would definitely look for someone telling me that.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything.
No.
You do have the gift of nurture.
Okay. Yeah.
Remember, only nurture when it lights you up.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for an equal exchange with that. That's going to be great.
Yes.
It's going to be really great.
Yes.
What does the chart say about relationships? Not necessarily mine, but of course I am interested in that. Like, does it help you with, future romantic relationships, either what to look for or timing or anything? I know very little about it.
Okay, so for you, as a 6'2" profile, you really truly are designed to experience your best life ever with your soulmate.
Oh, that's so cool. I had no idea.
The 6 line, though, I have one of those too. I'm a 4-6. The 6 line has 3 stages. No other profile lines have this. So this is the tricky bit. First 30 years of your life, all about experimentation, learning through personal experience. Then from like 30 to 50, it's about pulling back. It's unintentional. There's this pullback where you realize, like where you used to have thousands of friends, all of a sudden you got this like tight circle.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 50, it's called being up on the roof in human design language.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden people see you and they come to you for guidance.
All
Because the
right.
sixth line is the role model. It
Mm-hmm.
is the guru. It is like relax into your regality.
Okay.
Yeah. So in terms of relationships, you're meant to find your ideal soulmate and
Right.
live your amazing life with them. And just looking at where you are in your life,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna like, this might be the best time to find it. People sometimes say six lines won't find love until they're in their 50s.
That's all
I
right.
don't. Yeah, you'll get there. The thing that's amazing is, as women, there's so much chatter about like, oh, once you turn 50, then like menopause and like all this, you're just going downhill. So
Every decade is better than the last. That's what I
Yeah.
just expect.
Well, it is. When you have a six line too, there's the proof, like life just keeps getting better and better and
Yes.
better.
Mm-hmm.
We used to we had this magical experience where for some reason we started receiving People magazine and InStyle magazine. This was a couple of years ago. I think this was during COVID. And it came to Joseph someone at our address. And we looked around our neighborhood. We looked around the whole area of Sarasota. Couldn't find anyone with this name. So we were just, thanks, Joseph, for this subscription.
I like that.
And at first, neither of us were, my husband and I were like, I'm not really that interested in these magazines.
Right.
But what I learned, there are all these stories about celebrities and like starting late, being late bloomers.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look up celebrities charts and I'd be like, oh, I wonder if they have a six line. Every time they do.
Oh, I love where that comes together.
Yeah. So our lives really with people with a six line, whether it's 6'2", 4'6", 3'6", 6'3", I think that's it for the sixth line. It just keeps getting better and better. And you hit 50 and it just blasts off.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at a place where I absolutely love my life. And there's no way that anyone who isn't nourishing is going to enter in. I'm not lacking in there's places that I am growing into, right? But I'm not feeling lacking in them. Just the fact of just like, I know there is a certain part of my life that will be enhanced with an absolutely loving, nurturing partner, get to know parts of myself that I can't see otherwise. Thank you for that. I have one more question about this chart. This is so cool because I wanted to ask this in the beginning, but I didn't have the words. And since I didn't have the words, it wouldn't even make sense to ask. So there's the whole like, what type? Oh, so I'm a generator. Okay, it says life force, people here are to lift the energy of the world. But there's, generator. Okay, so I just heard conflicting things. And I watched something about the 6'2" in generator, but there's like a misnomer, and I'd love for you to speak on this about like waiting or something for things. And so can you clear that up for me?
Yes.
Specifically with this, but then more general.
Yes. So the strategy for generators is to wait to respond. Okay.
Right.
So that word wait, completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Here's what's happening. The universe is your personal shopper. So the universe is constantly bringing you things. This is for generators and manifesting generators. The universe is constantly bringing you things, new people, new ideas, new songs, new colors, whatever. And you are responding to it all day, every day. There's so much responding that we do that we're not aware of.
Yeah.
Like just looking out the window and feeling either super excited. It's your body that responds. So your body is either saying, oh my goodness, I love it so much. Holy hell yes. Or it's saying, nah, or nope. Or it's not really saying anything, which is basically the same as saying no.
Yep.
That is responding. Okay.
You explain that so well, especially with like, just throw that word wait out. Yeah. So you literally, like, if I had the words, that's kind of what I felt, because it's and that personal shopper thing is so good, because it's like the way that I've heard it described is like you have to wait until and that the whole thing about being specific and not being specific, you have to wait until you see it, and then you'll know. And it's like, that just doesn't feel right. But when you say like you're being thrown these new things all the time and you're sorting it like that, absolutely yes. Absolutely yes.
Yeah. And you're only responding to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
So, you might get a holy hell yes, be so excited to go to this party.
Mm-hmm.
And you really, truly are supposed to go to the party. And then you have a conversation there that you don't like, or you get food poisoning or something like that. And you're like, why was it such a yes? Because you were supposed to learn.
That happened to me. That happened to me recently. There's this gathering that happens once a week, and it's at different places. And I do think it's generally cool people. And I've been hearing about it for a year. And so I'm finally like, well, I'm going to go. And truthfully, I didn't go because there was a tiny, tiny, tiny chance there would be someone that I really didn't want to see going there, like the smallest chance ever. But I wasn't even really able to risk it at the time. So I was finally in a place, it was like, whatever, I'll just go on the other side of the room if they happen to be there, like a 1% chance. So it was a hell yes. And when I got there, it was dark out. It's this big house. I'm coming up to it. I saw the largest shooting star. It was in the sky for 15 seconds. And the whole horizon, no one else saw it. And I was just like, whoa. And so then I got there, and every single person, I did not prompt this conversation, and they weren't listening to each other. I would just go into different conversations, and they'd all be saying the same thing. They'd say, this is the best gathering ever. And it happens every week at a different place. Like, this is the best one. This is the best one. This is the best one. I'm like, so I guess I came to the right one. Like, this is great. And I didn't have that good of a time.
Yeah, you just had to go see the shooting star.
Well, the shooting star too. And now I'm not wondering though. I'm not like wondering, should I be going to this? I'm like, I went to the best one. And now I'm good. I don't need to, I don't need to be tempted when the description changes every week. And I'm like, oh, like, I didn't really feel like I was missing out per se in the traditional sense, but that like, it's just like that mental questioning of like, everyone says that this is where I will meet people because I want to meet people. But it's just a no for me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I had a similar experience recently as well. I was so lit up to get an Akashic Records reading. So excited about it. It was so not for me. And I had to learn that. I had to learn, oh, okay, I will no longer be curious and excited about this. Now I know what's going on.
Different people approach that differently, but the overall energy behind it is not something I vibe with.
That's what I've learned since.
Yeah.
So I had to go, especially leading up to it. People were like, oh, what is that? And I'm like, I don't really know. That's why I'm so excited to go.
Right. I'm like thrilled, if I had more time and whatever, I probably would have even like been hesitant to like have you look at my chart, even though clearly as soon as we hopped on, you were just like, yeah, I didn't ask, but it was clear. So I'm grateful for that reading of my chart. That's just incredibly helpful.
Good. I'm so glad it's helpful. And thank you for letting me see it. I love it so much.
I do feel like, especially the generators and the manifesting generators, you said, like that's something that I know a lot of people needed clarity on. So I'm really glad that we got to that. It's kind of like with Abraham Hicks saying you got to be a selective sifter, know, and you get to say no more often than yes, because you don't want everything. You want the thing that you want. That's cool.
And human design language, it was translated from Spanish. So there's some things that don't translate as well.
That makes sense.
And I think we all kind of hate the word wait.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I want to wait.
Well, I think people with your design probably hate the word wait a lot.
Really do. MGs are often told, slow down.
I love all women marine biologists. Sorry to interrupt you, but
really?
like every woman that I've met who studied that is just like tops. I haven't met a lot of men that do that, so I'm not saying anything, but like,
There
or
aren't
maybe
as
it's
many
just the
men
science
of
and
our
like,
era.
yeah, like the people in the ocean and the science. I think that's like a special combination, I think.
It's a whole lot of curiosity
That's it.
and,
That's
and
it.
fun.
Yeah.
Like you want to go hang out with like fish or whales or
Mhm.
whatever all day, and
Mhm.
they're playful species.
They are. They are.
There's
And it's,
one other piece of your chart I'm being nudged to
oh
share with you.
yeah, great.
That so you have the gift of being unstoppable.
Ooh.
And part of this gift is so like, when you're shooting an arrow,
Mhm.
pull it back and then you launch it. And as it's launching, it is going.
Mhm.
But there's that pullback phase.
Yes.
So you have a pullback phase where
Mhm.
you're going to be like, what's going on?
Mhm.
Why is everything like stagnant?
Right.
If you know that it's part of the pullback phase, you'll fly through it.
You explained. I was at the pharmacy today and like walking around town, and I was just like, it's more of a like less of a like I'm unstoppable to like, why am I unstoppable? Like, and it's this thing again, since I'm teaching and I know not everyone's like me. And sometimes I can get frustrated, like anyone, that not everyone's like me. It's less, but I'm just like, how have I walked through fire so many times and I'm still awesome? Like, I do understand because I put in the work, but how did I not die all of those times? Like sometimes literally,
Yeah.
it's astounding. Where is that in the chart, by the way?
That is actually your sun personality gate.
Wow.
So that is gate 60 and it's in the root in that bottom center.
Okay,
Yeah.
random question if you have a moment.
Hmm.
That thing of being invited, like I was half truthful when you said, you got to be invited to ask and whatever. I did get ejected from my biological family, orphaned a year and a half ago, and I'm learning all about, my mom was an extremely toxic narcissist, and so the whole unit has been under her spell. It's just very psychologically, it's like written all out, like they just call all that. But I don't think I was invited. Like, is there anything about like that stuff in the chart about like, you're like, you chose this, da 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 da. Like, this is just like a new question in my mind.
Well, there is. So I'm not feeling it. Oh, that's where it is. Your kid self. Yeah, you're here to be the authority figure, be the amazing person that your kid self wished existed.
Yes. Yeah.
So you needed to go through something so that you could mold what you want that future version of you to
well
be.
In a very, very spiritually evolved way, they will not be allowed back in my life, but I do thank them because they provided that adversity. Like my mom's role, like I know we like shook hands, and I'm like, I need to learn that just because you're unhappy doesn't mean that I am unhappy. And it's taken me lifetimes to learn that, and I still haven't learned it. So you need to get harsher so that I will understand. And I did that. I did an inner child meditation, one of them, and I knew what was happening because it's like, this is an inner child meditation, right? So it's like, go to your happy place. And I went back to this place that was from my childhood. I went to one of the crystal places and put a seat for her there. I knew she was coming, and she wasn't there. She was back from this place from childhood, and she was lost in the woods. And in this, although I have good memories there was sexual abuse happening there, not to me. And my family knew about it and still way supported it. But my little girl self knew that, I totally knew that. And I'm like, why are we still going here if it's a dangerous place? And so I literally, hugged her and found her there. And then I was like, I'm getting you out of here, and took her back to the crystal place, and, the literal place, one of my favorite places. And since then, we've been in sync. She's actually the one who was giving me the stomach aches in the store.
Interesting.
So yeah, that you just, wove those things together, and that makes a lot of sense. Because like from that moment with the meditation, she's just like, why was nobody listening to me at all? Because my parents were actually physically poisoning me as a kid. Yeah. And even up until I was 41, because I went back to help them, and they were physically poisoning me. So, and I had no idea.
So you wanted to paint that picture really clear.
I wanted to paint it really clear, but I was also super resistant. I was just like, I can make you happy. No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, that's partially my stubbornness, but I'm out of it now. So, well, this has been a blast. Thank you for saying
I've had so
yes.
much fun, Betsy. Thank you.
Yeah. So, what is it that you want people to know? And whatever you want, we'll have in the show notes. We'll have the links, but you can share with people how they can find you, what you got going on.
Yeah. Come on over to kelseyabbott.com. Come get your free chart from me there. Yes. And I'll give you a little golden nugget about your chart as well. And what do we have coming up really soon? So probably starting before this airs is Learn Your Human Design.
Cool.
Which is a 6-month class to like really truly start your human design experiment in a digestible way instead of this fire hose kind of way.
Yeah.
And then in a couple months, probably in March, I'm going to launch another round of the money class, which is all about just maximizing your abundance in every way.
That sounds fantastic.
That is so much fun.
Great. So I'll put the links in the show notes for people.
Thank you.
And honestly, there's just a reason why there's been no other human design people in my world. So, you've got my seal. So if you want to know about human design, you now have your human design connection too. So as Joy, as the leader here. So
yes. Oh, thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for being here.
This has been wonderful. Thank you.
How to Trust Your Intuition, the podcast, is written, produced, and created by me, your host, Betsy LaFay. Music provided by Ben Talmy. If you don't want to be like that pilot that is 80% sure you'll get to your next destination safely, and you want to take the right class to learn the right language, and guess what? Intuition is a language. Head over to howtotrustYourIntuition.com. I hope this podcast has been helpful to you. If it has, please forward it to a friend who you think it could also make a difference for. There's something that you can do for me and everyone else who listens to this podcast as well. If you hit subscribe, you'll never miss another episode. It'll also help the show get to other people. And of course, I know you've heard other podcast hosts say this before, but it's totally true. If you leave us a 5-star rating and a review, it helps other people like you discover this podcast. We all need to learn to trust our intuition. So, hit subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and write a little blurb while you're there. Your intuition will thank you.